Hey everybody, Jason here. Before we get started, just wanted to wish everybody a very happy and healthy 2021. Brand new year. Hopefully, it is better than 2020 was. Also, in this episode, we are going to be covering Dune, and we said we were going to cover Lost Ruins of Arnak. Didn't really happen. We got into our discussion of reviews and responses to reviews. And I think it's a good one. So go ahead and enjoy that. Just wanted to give you a flag that we say we're going to cover a game and we're not going to do it. Hopefully, it'll happen sooner rather than later. So without further ado, enjoy the show.
Hello, and welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop podcast, your one stop for co-op news and reviews. This week, Jason Perez is here to entertain you with some more Shelf Stories.
Yo, my peoples, what's up? Welcome back to Shelf Stories, the channel that tells tales from games, book, and life. Also, welcome to the One Stop Co-op Shop podcast. My name is Jason. Thank you so much for joining us, and I'm also joined by my frequent co-host on the One Stop Co-op Shop, Michael Kelly.
Hey, everybody. Good to be here again with Jason. And we got an even cooler guest than either of us. Jeremy Howard from Man vs. Meeple and Jambalaya Plays.
Yeah. How y'all doing, man? Hey, party people, man. I'm so excited to be back.
A couple of missteps a couple of misfires in the scheduling. It's hard. It's the holidays. Lots of stuff going on. Jeremy is all over the place. You can check him on Board Game Design Lab, Board Game Gumbo, Board Game Cucamonga, but anything that has to do with board games.
Board games under the stairs.
Dude, like for real. I will join like some Facebook group, like just like there. Off the cuff, and he'll have been there. He'll be like a moderator. He'll have been there for like 5 years. He'll have like 30 posts like in the last day.
Yeah, man. I stay moving, stay relevant, man. Mm-hmm. Stay moving, stay relevant.
So the reason we all are joining each other on a call. Mike, there we go. You were frozen for a second. We're gonna ease our way through this.
Oh, you know my internet, man.
Yeah, right. The reason we're all joining each other on calls with Michael put up a very interesting forum post about Dune.
Very interesting.
And we'll talk a lot about it, but I think the general conversation point is going to be the community response to reviews, right? So like we put out the reviews. And then we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how people are going to.
Well, and not even reviews, but also like first impressions. Because that's what that one really was. Like I posted later my full review, but that was like after I'd played the game like twice, Yeah. So yeah.
It's both though. I mean, anything that we post, we're like we hit send, and it's like.
Yep. Never know.
And we got it, and so we had a lot of thoughts about it because that came up pretty interesting. Jeremy joined, I joined, and it's like, okay, let's make it happen. However, we are all about the games, and we got lots of games to review. So I have 2 games that I'm actually going to kind of step off this, but I have not played these 2 games. Jeremy has, and Michael has. We'll bang them out quick. But these were kind of hotness games towards the end of the year, so we definitely want to cover them for you. So the first one we're covering is, Mike?
Dune Imperium, which is the one I did the post about. Yeah, and that's it's from Direwolf.
Direwolf and Legendary.
Direwolf Digital, yep.
Yeah, and they worked with Legendary. So Direwolf, they did the Root app. They've done some like collectible like kind of fighting card games.
They're the first first foray to board games was Clank.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I forgot they did Clank. Yeah. And so this is worker placement and deck building and area control kind of. And like fighting for victory points. It's the Dune theme, which I love. And Jeremy, you like know nothing about, right?
I know nothing about it. I know what a dude is.
This is a millennial talking, bro.
And I've seen a sandworm. I know that they have sandworms.
They got them.
Yeah, that sounded cool. So
yeah, and then we're also going to look a little bit later at Lost Ruins of Arnak, which is also a deck building worker placement game at the end of the year. Come on, people.
It's all of it.
Yeah.
So, Jeremy, I know how I feel. I'm like, my video is already out. How are you feeling about Dune at this point? You've been playing it for over a week. Like, what's
Well, break down what it is. Like, I mean, I know that's a bunch of tag words and everything, but like, how does it all kind of come together?
So, I mean, I focus on the solo play, but the basic idea is you've got a little deck of starting cards like any deck builder. But they have both an effect at the bottom of the card if you don't use them during the turn, which is most often going to be money to buy more cards at the end of your turn in the traditional deck building fashion, adding cards to your deck. But then they also have these icons on the left side that will tell you what kind of action spaces they can go to if you play them to use them for the worker placement. So your cards are kind of multi-use in your hand. You can either use them to play to specific action spaces, or you can save them at the end of the turn for bonuses, often buying cards. And the action spaces, I mean, it's pretty good for the Dune theme, but in the end, it's just your general, kind of convert this resource to that resource, convert this thing to gaining that thing. But the big kind of special thing about it is you are fighting over the planet of Arrakis. They have this conflict every round, this like little card you flip up that shows what you're going to win if you get the most points, the most troops there. And a lot of the spaces you go to, the action spaces will let you move troops from your garrison into the conflict. And then that's where you kind of get like the area control thing. You can have these surprise cards that can add to your strength value. And it's a pretty quick game. At least solo, it's like 30 minutes,
Yeah, I was going to say 45 minutes tops.
Yeah, so for the solo, you've got these two Automa, but they share a deck, and you're flipping cards to see which action spaces they take, but they kind of get like different bonuses based on where they're going. But then they're also competing with you over that little conflict thing I mentioned. And yeah, you're just racing to victory points, but you get them from winning the conflicts, from currying favor. You have like these 4 factions you can cozy up to. A few other cards can earn you victory points. But that's it's kind of the gist, like race and fight and try to control the planet as quick as you can.
Yeah. The big thing, I guess, if you want to know like more specific contests, there's context. There's 4 factions. They all have one spot you don't have to pay for anything. There's one spot you do have to pay for everything. They all give you different benefits and cards, but really they are just like amplified version of how do you get resources, how do you get the most restricted resources. There's a council part that kind of helps you build up your garrison, gives you longer turns, and also helps you pay for stuff if you're with the High Council. There's nothing that's like, that's asymmetric, but the characters, there's a lot of characters actually. There's eight to choose from, and they all have like a passive ability, and then they also have one that's like a special ability that you get by playing a specific card. I think this is called the Signet Ring or whatever.
Yeah, Signet Ring.
The interesting thing about them is that they are interesting. If you are, I was playing with a buddy of mine. He recognized some of the characters, and he was like, "Yeah, that's what they would do. Like they would be this type of character that's a politician. So that if you go to the High Council, they should get things cheaper, or they're paying with spice to negotiate. So this is that." I was like, "Oh, okay. I mean, like I don't care, but
you don't have to care. It's not what.
But I don't have to
like
care.
Have to know,
like that's a big thing. I've been spending a lot of time this year playing things that are not in my wheelhouse, and I don't necessarily have to know everything going in. I have a thing with that with Star Wars. Like I always say, Star Wars is great when it has less Jedi in it because everybody knows everything about the Jedi. And when it's not Jedi, everything gets weird and uncomfortable for everybody. It's like, it's not Skywalker, it's not Vader. Whoa, there's a world, there's a galaxy out there,
So it's like on Tatooine with all these bounty hunters.
Right. So with Dune, it's like all this stuff, you may know all the story beats, but it's like, what if I just like sci-fi? Like, what if I'm a guy who likes sci-fi? Like, can I still enjoy this game? Do I need context the whole time to enjoy it? The answer is no, because my answer will always be gameplay over everything.
Yeah, right. So did you enjoy the game, Jeremy?
Yes. So I thought at first I thought it was average, but I did play a 2-player first, so I got the chance to flip the deck. I played it mostly solo for a week, and I found that solo to be I'll skip that. And I played 4-player just the day before yesterday, and when I did, I was like, yeah, this game is very good because the interaction that you get for the conflict forces everybody to kind of decide whether they want to be in and out of the conflict. And there are these intrigue cards that you get in the game. And there are ones, and this is another interesting part because you don't know what everybody has.
Yeah.
There's an in-game points version. There's a combat version, conflict version. And then there's like a plot card. And I mean, when I say these plot cards can do things, my friend just won it last night on this plot card that he didn't understand. And he could have won the game 2 rounds in a row. And we were so angry. Oh, we were so angry. But the plot, it was really cool what happened. Like he could convert something into victory. I was like, this is awesome. Why didn't you play it 2 more rounds ago? Anyway, but I do like these intrigue cards because they really do spice it up, pun intended. And Yeah, it was just really smooth. Like I was like, wow, this is really good interaction. But for solo players, there's good and bad. Like, so you have the good of there's a deck, there's AI, right? There's a thing of like they do try to get to every part of the board, although they kind of are a little bit more hands off with trying to acquire persuasion. They don't need it. So there's that thing. The Mentat, they don't really go after that, like, so you kind of have that, like they don't necessarily block you from getting your own other worker. So they don't do that. But I do like you get a head start to get to your third worker. So everybody's kind of like like I can get to my third worker possibly before you do. And then halfway through the game, they join the fray. But the big thing about the deck that I did not like, it's really heavy handed for conflict. Although it can be a hit or miss, more than likely they get you just get pounded on the conflict. You just get pounded. So you really have to push your strategy, and you only get 2 workers towards that, or hope for a draw of the card on the intrigue cards, because sometimes you do actually try to dive into the intrigue deck as much as possible, so you get a lot of options, and it pulls you away from. You want to get these factions because you go halfway up, you get a point. If you go further, you get a point and a benefit. So it's like you kind of want to do that more, but they pound you so hard on those conflicts, and they become more and more spicy, and it's a good play to have, to know that. But I do think it's really heavy-handed. I do think it's heavy-handed. And because the draw of the cards of how they laid out in the display, they definitely needed something to wash all those cards away. And that's a basic thing in deck builders.
I know, man. I was really surprised.
Spend 2 spice and wipe,
Mm-hmm.
It costs 5 spice and you get to wipe all the cards.
You get the center lock effect where it's like the deck doesn't move.
Right. Yeah, literally, I mean, I said this in my review. I was like, how can you do this in 2020? Mm-hmm. There is no mechanic in the solo play, or, a mechanic even in lower player counts of the regular game. Nothing cycles the deck faster by player count. Like in solo, you might see 12 cards and you mark it entirely out of a 90 card
crazy.
Deck.
And you end up buying dud cards.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, you buy dud cards. That's your cycle.
Buying these dud cards, your deck gets fat. There's not a lot of ways to trim your deck in this game, unless you buy cards that make you shed your deck when you play them, mm-hmm. or you go to one spot where they do that. And those are the spots that often come up in there. There's a spot they go to the spice all the time. So they go for the spice. They go for the spot where you can shed your cards. They go to the spot where you can get your intrigue cards, and they go to the spot where you can get the most Solaris, a lot. That's the majority of the deck, honestly. And then that one spot where you can get 4 of your troops. They kind of pound those a lot, so you can't get to them. Yeah. And then they hit those 4 spots that are specific because they can do a whole bunch of extra stuff. So it's I kind of knew that mentally. I started to kind of get on that. At least that's in my mind what I thought. But I was just for me, I got to basically stop rounds and just go, hey, I got 6. I got 6 persuasion. I might as well just cut it short so I can buy some cards. I'm okay with adjusting to a game state where it's at. I did that with Merv. It's all right, the board is laid out like this. I have to play it like this. It's random enough the way it was mm-hmm. built. So it's I have to adjust. But for a game like this, there's only 10 points in the game. There's 10 rounds. You're up against the timer pretty much on how the AI will unleash itself upon you. And I just don't feel like that's attractive. Maybe in the solo game, like in a deck builder, you may take out one card and then put a new one in, Monumental does that. The game just moves on. So it's you got to start, mm-hmm. You have this feeling. I just play Creature Comforts, a kid's game, a kid's Euro game. Slide one card out for the market, lie one card down from the contraptions. Everything moves out. Beautiful. It feels
keep that river flowing, man. That river just stays there. It gets all stagnant.
So it could be Jeremy, but I don't like high scoring games, and it's not a game breaker. The ultimate part, like I said, really high interaction. That's when it comes down to it, because those conflicts become really juicy at the end. And in the multiplayer version, you actually can play this game of, do you want to play an intrigue card for the conflict? So there's kind of a little bluffing thing, and you can pass But if everybody doesn't pass, you can come back and be like, I pass again. And then somebody will be like, all right. And if all of us pass, we move forward. But if somebody goes, hey, I'm playing this conflict card, then it's on everybody else to be like, oh, snap. Like, he's playing the conflict card. What am I going to do? Am I staying out of this? You know, you don't want to let anybody fight themselves, whereas there's no resistance. You should maybe giving away free points. So it's like that's a cool little, thing. This is a workplace or deck building. They do it all. It does it well. It does it well.
So your
it's just
review,
that
Mike,
part.
your review wasn't like your initial impression wasn't positive. Your review ended up being a little bit more positive. Is that where you're kind of landing? Right
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
Here's the thing. I don't think from that initial impression I posted on Facebook to my final review, I don't think the solo really got much better for me. But I didn't play it multiplayer, but I was like, this game would be really cool. Like, this game would be really fun, like competing and like bluffing and all the stuff Jeremy said. This game would be awesome for that. I agree with everything Jeremy said, like literally every single thing. The one thing that Jeremy didn't say that I would add, and Jeremy, I'm curious if you agree with this, I don't like the deck building in here at all. And I don't imagine I would like it that much, even at a higher player count. That's the one thing I don't think would work that well for me multiplayer.
Okay.
You don't get to buy that many cards. You don't get to see them very often. Last like 3 rounds of the game, like a third of the game. Any of the cards you buy, you're never going to play them most likely.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like I'm getting like, I don't know. In most of my games, I got like 3 cards that I actually used in the deck builder. I was like, what?
So it does change up a little bit in multiplayer because, of course, just by the attrition of a game, like the cards are going to get, bought.
Sure.
So it's like, all right, I'm not going to buy that Acarius Legion thing where I just get 2 every time because it doesn't let you go to any locations, which is awesome. That's like the choice of the cards. It's like you have a card that lets you go anywhere on the board, but you have to trash it. You have a card that, it's better as a card that you use for your reveal than it is like a card you play. And then you have these crappy cards that are in your deck that have nothing on them. So it's like you got to shed those, but everybody wants to shed their cards. So there's enough there. There's just enough there for multiplayer, but your decks still do get fat and there's not enough ways to shed them. Like there's just not enough ways to shed your cards.
I don't do this usually. I didn't say this in my review because I'm not trying to like put this kind of thing out there. I don't usually try to like think how I would have designed a game differently.
Oh, look at you.
But this time it was so dang.
It's always there. But it's always there.
This time it was so clear to me because the deck building feels so tacked on and it's so minimalistic. But the multi-use card idea is gold. It's beautiful. It's gold. And as someone who loves the Dune theme, they did almost nothing to differentiate the different houses. Atreides is like the exact same as Harkonnen. And I don't know if y'all know Dune, people listening who do, that's weird. This would have been a perfect game, I think, to have different factions with just a deck. No deck building.
Yes.
I got the Atreides cards and they're totally, and think how cool, Jeremy, because like on the first turns, it's kind of a boring choice, right? Like, of course I'm going to take this action. Of course I'm going to use these 3 points. Think if from turn 1, I had interesting cards in my hand that match my faction, and I had interesting choices with that multi-use. Like, I think it's a wasted opportunity because they were like, I want to add some deck building on here. I know they're from, I think that they did a great job with deck building in Clank. That's a deck builder that works.
Right.
Here, I felt like the deck building was like grafted on, and it made the game worse for me instead of better.
Yeah, I just think, for people who like this game a lot, like Richard, I was talking to Richard, and he, he's like, this game is going to be great. We were talking about games that are going to last over the next 3 years, and he said this one is, and I was thinking to myself, like, how could you say that? Like, this game clearly is going to need expansions. And I think they have them. I think they're done. I think they're holding back. And if this movie tanks, they're going to be under a lot of pressure to what they can do with this design. But I'm not worried about it tanking because everything seems to be like moving towards the positive. But I think they have more game, and they need to give it more game. Because by the time people get their stuff in March, they'll have all the sexy stuff. So they'll have all those premium editions with all the stuff. And people will have been playing this game, and they'll see more coverage. And I saw it when I was in my stream. They were like, "Oh, this doesn't look, looks kind of basic. It doesn't look like it has like a heart to it or whatever." And I was just like, you know what? I think people will do that. They'll pick it apart because there are some small things. Like I said, there's small things that are not forgivable in most games, but for this game, it's okay because it's Dune. But I think by March, all that sheen is off. So what do you have next? But we'll be heading into convention season, and I hope that they produce something like that. I don't know if there's like other planets in Dune that you kind of like go back and forth. There may be that. There may be a sideboard, but I feel like this design is not like Clank where it has like another box. I feel like it's stapled onto this design.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's going to be a good thing because this game is a good base game. But that's the thing. I feel like it's a base game.
Well, but I would not say it's a good base game for solo.
So
like I'm just saying it straight out there.
Oh, no.
Don't buy this for solo only.
Let's make that clear. I can't recommend this game for solo only purchase. If that's what you're looking for, you're just here for the solo. I cannot recommend it. I think it's something that you would have to play first to see if you're even into the type of game it is.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's, I don't feel like I don't want to tread lightly on that either. I want to make sure that you see maybe enough of the solo play and see if it's interesting for you, because it does suck when you go through a deck and it feels like it's heavy-handed for a while or it's stealing all the spice. You're like, man, I don't even have anything I can do this round, plus the cards and stuff like that. Interesting stuff. Like I said, interesting design still, but it feels like a base game.
So then this question came up, and we'll move on to Lost Ruins of Arnak in just a second, but this question did come up in the thread. And we'll talk about it later, but like this is very particular to this one. So this game is advertised as 1 to 4, right? And so is that like taking advantage of us solo players? Like shit, like knowing that the solo is weaker than the multiplayer, and like it's an area control game. So like area control, you don't get a lot of area control games because like that's a very high interaction, just basic game state. So like so here's the solo mode, and obviously they tried. It's like there's bots and there's the rules and everything, but this is hard, difficult. Like I'm looking at it going, I haven't played it, but like I can tell it's hard. It would be hard for this bit to be really good. Should they have just made it a 2 to 4 game?
No,
I mean, like the solo plays. I mean, I wouldn't mind like it being marketed better.
Mm-hmm. Oh no!
If it was like 2 to 4 with a solo variant,
right?
I know that's like basically the exact same thing, but it sounds different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like instead of having 1 to 4 in the box, it's like 2 to 4, and then like with solo.
Well, then no one's going to buy it. People are going to talk crap about it. It's like, okay, you tack this on. I'm not going to buy this.
Well, but they did tack it on. Like, I mean, they didn't. I don't want to say that actually. They didn't tack it on.
Right.
I think they made some missteps.
Let's be real though. Like, there are games that tack it on.
Yes,
this is not tacked on.
This one did not tack it on.
Actually, designed whether you like it or not.
Yes,
I think you would even differ than both of us.
Sure.
Because like the deck is there. It's a thick deck.
Yeah.
It's a thick deck, and there are cards where they don't get anything, and there's cards where they get a crap ton, and you're like, holy crikey. But it's a deck. Like you just don't know what's coming out of it. You feel like you're trying to plan something, and they tread on everything. And since there's only 2 workers, and even in Lost Ruins of Arnak, there's only 2 workers. So it's like, what am I supposed to do with these 2 workers? I only get 2. Well, now I get 3. Well, they have 3. So then like, what do we, so you're kind of, I would say this. I'll just say this. The game is strong overall to me. Like overall. If you're buying this, like I said, as a solo-only player, I cannot recommend this game. But if you like the game and you know you're going to be playing multiplayer, I think you have a good rounded-out package.
Yeah.
You would try the solo knowing what you're getting into. I would just say, I know it's decent. I just don't.
Okay.
I wouldn't be like, oh, this solo game back into the year. Yes,
Well, and I did talk, just kind of add on to the question, Jason. I talked to Mike Delisio from the Dice Tower, who was like one of the first kind of positives out about the game, and he said to me, and I think this is like really interesting to think about. He was like, I played the game a bunch multiplayer first, then I played the solo, and I was impressed how many things that happen in multiplayer happened in the solo, and in a way that made it a good solo mode, because it was like, oh, that looks like what happens in the multiplayer game.
Yeah.
Whereas I played it solo only, and I'm like, this isn't fun. You
Right.
know what I mean?
And I played it. I played it first multiplayer, but I played it too. So I played with
Right.
the deck. So I would
So
say
yeah,
some of the things play out, but it's like it's anticlimactic. It's,
Yeah.
you know, you flip over the
Mhm.
card, it is what it is, right?
yeah. I mean, so the real answer to that question is complicated, and there are a lot of people out there that don't want to hear that. So
Right.
Yeah.
we'll get to that in a
I
second.
think we're 'tis the season to hear stuff negative, but I'm not going to go too deep in that because I've been hearing
Well,
Well,
some
I mean,
stuff. I've been seeing some stuff. I'm like, 'tis the season to hear negative stuff and be happy for it. I don't know what it is, but
Mhm.
it's like we have some things going on right now in these groups. I'm like, man, anything that's like a little bit negative, yeah,
We'll
like
get to that. We will
stuff.
absolutely
It's
get.
like,
I got a lot
well,
to
I
say.
mean, we can talk
I'm,
about Arnak at the end. Let's talk about that now. Let's
oh
get
my
into the
gosh,
discussion.
yeah,
You know.
yeah. So I'm
Oh,
just
we can just punt on Arnak. We don't have to talk about it.
I mean, yeah.
This is just
Let's see.
fine.
Let's see how long this goes because I don't want to like have to cut the discussion short, and then we can go to
oh
Arnak if we need to. You know.
oh, I was just gonna say that, like, you know, I'm seeing it right now. Big thing with content creators right now. We're under a lot of pressure. We're like our words are being really picked at nowadays, and that's fine. I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, I cover games in multiple ways, but I'm doing a lot of community stuff and posting things, letting people know about games, answering questions, things like that. But I know that people do care about my opinion, and you know, one typo can mean a lot. Uh, you know, for me, typing is like a second language. Yeah, like I have people proofread my stuff at work every day. Trust me. But I just feel like I'm watching other reviews, and I'm watching like even people who are genuinely enjoying something. There are other people who are looking for something wrong with that experience or something wrong with the creator being tricky. Like, and I even say that language, and then people don't really. They're like, I don't know. I don't feel like they're trying to trick me. I just feel like I want to hear something counter to the point. I'm like, but if they're having fun, they're having fun.
Mhm.
And if the last game they played, they had fun, and the last game they played, they had fun, well, they must be fun to that person.
Right.
You know, like this bias thing, I'm like, the bias thing keeps coming up. It exists. But you know what we don't care about? Like, we're gamers just like you. We don't want to seem like shills just like you. Okay? Like, if you were in our position, we don't want to feel like shills. I care about that too. And they're like, well, then you get a free game, you feel biased. I'm like, dude, if you review games long enough and you get enough free games, it's not the luster wears off. It's actually more of a responsibility. Stop. Like, if it's good, thank God. You know, like if it's in my rotation and it's good, thank God. Especially if I get done reading a 30-page rule book, it better be good. You know? But it's like it doesn't make for me to be like a back scratcher. If it's good, it's good. I remember a guy said something to me. He was like, well, he was like, well, I feel like some publishers give money to like make sure you say something good. I said, there's two things that happen. So for me, most of the time I say no anyway. Second of all, if I don't like the game, I will say like literally the most baseline stuff to make sure I find the people that want it. I won't cover it. And I said, well, the thing you need to know is that sometimes publishers struggle for quotes, and they will try to paraphrase stuff, which is not cool. And that can mess me up, you know?
This is a top 10 ... worker
Right,
placement
right.
game,
Like that
and the
can mess people up.
is like
and that messes the integrity of other people up. And I said, but that's the thing. Like most publishers will try to clarify if they don't know what you're trying to say. They may say, hey, like, can you give us a quote? And I was like, that's all they ask for. Nobody ever says, hey man, can you just say something positive? I mean, can you just in an email, hey man, on a conference call, you know me, man.
Mhm.
I paid for it. Give me something good. Like,
Mhm.
no, like they're looking for something positive, but that doesn't mean I'm necessarily going to give it to them. Like they're looking for something they can use for their page. Other than
Now,
that,
Jason, are you seeing like the same kind of negative trend lately? Do you feel like the same way Jeremy does?
Okay, so here's what I think. I think that the community has become more cynical in the last couple of years. I think that there is a line between skepticism and cynicism, and I think that
Mm.
it becomes crossed. So this is what happens, right? So then there are a lot of content creators that just do positive reviews. That they because and like all three of us here, and this is kind of why we wanted to talk. Like, there's reasons why we do mostly positive reviews. We don't get paid for this, or we maybe like I full disclosure, I get paid by the Dice Tower to do my reviews, but it's like part-time little things to like pay for the lights. See, I got some lights over there. I over there. So like, just for that, or like this, right? This is not free. So like I get enough money to pay for that, but that's it. And like, I don't get like, I can't support myself on this. And so most content creators cannot support themselves unless they're a Richard Ham or somebody else. And even then it's not like, he's not rolling.
Oh, they ain't rich.
None of us
ain't
are.
rich.
So like, so we have to have, so it has to be fed by our passion. Right. And in order to like sustain this, we have to bend towards the positive. You do too much negative stuff, you just can get burned out. Like the occasional negative review can be fun and like, oh, he blew up this game, blah, blah, blah.
Right?
And then it's like that can be fun, but I can't like I just reviewed Defenders of the Realm for the podcast, and I crapped on it. It's like it's like it was entertaining, but like I will take a shower after this. I want to get back to the positive, the fun stuff, because I have to be fed by my passion. So the problem becomes that when the community sees all those positive reviews, they're like, wait a minute. I can't trust that. I can't trust that. And more games come out, more content creators, and then more positive. So it's like, hold on a second. So then a negative review comes out, and that's what Mike posted, right? Negative review comes out, or something like an impression or whatever you want to call it. And then it's like, oh, thank God, I can trust somebody again.
Yeah, like they believe that has to be the honest
that's
one.
The
that has
honest
to be the correct
truth.
one.
You're
the true one. You're the one. You're the chosen one.
You were the chosen one.
And that's where the negativity comes from. So it's like, thank God you said something all these other shills are saying that the
buddy. I love it.
That's where the negativity comes in. And that's where I say skepticism is very healthy. Just don't take things at face value. Listen to multiple reviewers and like actually listen to what people are saying. But then I think it becomes this assumption that people who just say a lot of positive things are bought and paid for.
Right. Yeah.
And that's where we all three of us are like draw a line and go, hold on a second.
Yeah.
Let's really lay out what you're seeing here, people.
Yeah.
It's a lot to do with like, in terms of the passion, like we don't get paid for this. We're doing this out of our passion. We have to keep it fed. Jeremy over here is a really passionate dude. Like he got no time for that. We all got part-time jobs. And I believe me, guys, I get it. There are people who take advantage. There are people who don't disclose.
Right.
There are people who hustle for review copies. These are problems, and we should talk about them. And I want to have conversation about that. But skepticism does not have to become cynicism.
Right.
That's my big point.
Yeah, and I've made all the mistakes of a young starting reviewer. I've done things that I was just like, yeah, that's stupid. It's, don't do that. Like don't do that. That's not the move. Getting caught up in it early on and stuff like that.
Right.
But I make sure nobody else does that, behind me, or when people give me, I want to give people advice. People are asking me, younger, starter reviewers and things like that. And I try to open up these conversations in our groups that we have for content creators and stuff like that, because, people don't know. They don't know what they don't know. And they're trying to gain an audience. They're trying to learn how to connect with their audience. They don't even know who they are. And just like a young Kickstarter from a first-time developer, like they're making mistakes, and people are ready to pounce on them, and they're also not willing to grow with them, unfortunately, because they don't necessarily have the language. They don't know, how to say things. They may slip up. They may get rules wrong, so they give the wrong impression. Those types of things. But I have to make sure it's clear. It's like I will cover any game, but if it's all negative, like if I really can't find anything to say that I like,
we're not journalists. We are not the fourth estate. We are not like independent people. And I think that like we say we're like, I think the reviewer word kind of messes people up, right? So like when we say I call ourselves reviewer, we're putting ourselves as like a Siskel and Ebert type in movies, or like a Seppenwall. These people are paid, and that's their careers, and that they are the legit fourth estate, right? And what I mean by that is like the old French Revolution. You had your clergy, you had your noble people, you had had the regular people, but then you had the media journalists that were kind of keeping track of everything. And I think like, this, oh, you guys are board game journalists. You guys are fourth estate. You should be independent and you should just call it down the middle, balls and strikes. So I should hear half negative and half positive, and that's how it should look. And that is not how it looks in board game media, because we are not fourth estate. Most of us are, and aren't anyway. And I am not willing to like review like on the Dice Tower. They send out like these piles of games that are just like utter garbage. It's like, cover this, please, someone. Kind of thing. I'm not looking forward to that. I'll do it because I'm doing like Tom. I'll do the solid, but I don't want to.
I mean,
I'm gonna get through it.
Just think about this. It's like that Dune review we just had. We just had a discussion.
Right.
Actually, I feel like we said more negative things than good.
For the solo.
Oh, but only about solo. Yeah, I was going to say, for multiplayer, we're both in a pretty positive place.
It's still a good game, and it's also debatable whether you might like it and we don't. Like, because I liked it. I just know there's flaws to it. Mike likes it less, but he saw something in there just to say, like, you can't purchase this for solo only, and he did not play multiplayer. I did, and I love the game multiplayer.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I think the solo's decent. I just can't refer it as a solo mode. So what are you supposed to do with that? You're supposed to take that in and internalize it and say, hey, like, okay, they said this, they said that. I'm probably going to be playing it at 2 or 1, so you need to know that 2 players still has the deck. 1 player is all deck. There's an app. Maybe that irritates you. We didn't talk about the app. So these are things you have to do on your own, but we are informing you with a lot of information about how the gameplay experience works. Mike talked about it. He talked about the factions vaguely. I talked about them in detail. Those are the things you got to pay attention to. I talked about the conflict thing because there's area control. It is the lowest, weakest part of the game, so much so you may not even mention it, right? You just say, hey, at the end, you play these cards. But it is area control. It's like, yeah. So it's like these things you have to parse out. You have to start listening more and doing more research and not just rely just on the reviewer for all of the information, unless you want the rule book read to you, as I say, and even Rodney and Paul don't do that. They write some damn good scripts. So they don't just read you the rule book. All right. So I don't know what we're asking for reviews, but I understand where these guys are. I understand where people are right now. They want to know more of the truth, I guess. Maybe they don't want the professional speak, but the big one is like lying. And then also like this, I still can't figure out the paid reviewer thing, man. I still can't figure it out. I'm like, if you could just, some people even say it. They're like, I don't want to say no names. I'm like, can you just say it? Like, say it. Who? Like who?
Yeah, when people hold that up, like that's what we're talking about. So like, are you paid reviewers are shill? Paid previews are good, but paid reviewers are bad. And like, I mean, I can think of Lance Mixter is paid. So and there's a certain select people, and he got in real bad trouble for not being upfront way back in the day. Way back. Our podcast, we talked about it, and now it's all paid promotion. He presses the button. It's all transparent, and almost everybody everybody presses the button. I remember one time we had one preview, and Ryan unleashed it. It didn't have the button for 10 minutes. And I flew on the phone. We were in the chat, dude, go in there. I was like, I was going to log in. Like, press the button. What are you doing?
Because if it happens that long, somebody will be like, yeah, I told you. Da, 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 da. Like, it's like, dude, we're not trying to, nobody's trying to deceive you, man. Like, especially for Man vs. Meeple, it's an LLC. Like, it's not like some, they don't want to get sued. They don't want to, like, these guys are like, I'm 43. Ryan's in his later 30s. Kira's in, Kira and all the guys, they're closer to 50. We don't have no reason to lie to you. Like, nobody has no, like, it's a board game. Like, why do we need to lie to you? We want you to enjoy the hobby. We want to inform you. And if something we're excited about is not good, that is worth covering too. So if you said it was Mage Knight 2 and we played Mage Knight 2, and assuming it was the exact same game, they just said, hey, this is like Mage Knight 2, and it was utter garbage, we would have an hour-and-a-half podcast about how that game was garbage. Jeremy played Cosmic Encounters Duel. Cosmic Encounters is one of his favorite games. He destroyed that game. I mean, he destroyed it in the most professional manner I've ever seen him be. But he destroyed it, And it's like people were not happy with that.
Well, yeah, and I wanted to because we talked about kind of like the negativity with my review and people being like, yes, you're telling the truth. Like that's the honest
God, oh
thing.
man. Mhm.
It's also interesting to see the opposite reaction. Because I had people who were like, well, wait, but Mike from Dice Tower and this person and that person said it was great. So why are you wrong?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And like,
Yeah.
so what did you miss? How did you play it wrong so that you didn't see how great it was? Because clearly everyone thinks it's great. It is a great game for 100% of the population.
People say that. No, but people say it though. They won't even write a long one. They'll say like I was looking at Etherfields. Like people are like, everybody's selling their Etherfields. I'm like, no, they're not. I said there's nothing that any reviewer is adding to what the positives and negatives are at this point. Then their very personal preference, what you need to hear.
Right. Which one hits them harder?
The flaws are already there. We know what the flaws are. We know the rule book. We know the board, right?
We know the grindiness.
Right. And we know the grindiness. We know this. Some people are more deeply into that and say, no, I can't have this. I reject it. I hate it, which is the same reaction any person would have. But other than that, the positives are big. Like the gameplay experience is big. It's well written. Like those are the things. It's super immersive. Nobody, nobody is denying that. So you have to decide what you value the most.
Right.
You have to decide what you value the most.
Well, the funniest one on the Dune thing is I think I remember I was messaging with you about this, Jeremy. Yeah. This person came on the YouTube video and they're like, well, but you didn't play with the app, so you didn't play the real solo game.
I know.
And I was like, wait, man, like the app is just the card deck. It's the exact same thing. And I was like, Jeremy, isn't the app just the card deck? And you're like, yeah. And then I even messaged Mike. I've never even talked to the dude like online. I just met him at PAX U. I was like, hey, Mike, isn't the app the card deck? And he's like, yeah, it's the exact same thing.
It's not important. But I get it. Like I get, they want everything. People want everything. I get it. Like you want the whole deal. Some people really want the rules explained. All the rules.
I think, okay.
Some people don't like that.
I'll try to be fair. I think people want a sense of certainty, right? Like they want to be able to trust what they see. So like if you're a consumer, there's a core question: am I watching a review or am I watching an ad? Yep. And so so consumers divide the world into a black and white. This is a review and this is an ad. So like and so there's a cynicism thing, right? So if it's not negative, I don't know if I can trust this as a review. This must be an ad, right? Yeah. And so it's like, I think a lot of consumers approach it with that kind of black and white. And I'm a psychotherapist. I deal with black and white thing all the time. It is not healthy. And so like when Jeremy, I think we got into this around the same time. We've been doing a couple of years now, Mike. We all been doing this, 4 or 5, 6 years at this point. And you get so many games that black and white is gone for us. Mm-hmm. And so it's like we're now at the point of like, okay, what's the consensus ideas, right? Mm-hmm. So like you guys reach a consensus about Dune. Multiplayer good, solo has these issues. There's a consensus there, and then I love what you said, Jeremy, about what do you value. Mm. So it's like, look at that. Do you value multiplayer? Do you value solo? Do you value this, that, they're doing fine. So then that's the best way to do a review. Not is it a review or is it an ad?
Right.
And I think too many people come at it with that perspective. Right.
Well,
and it makes us distrustful.
That's when I feel personally like my reviews are the best ones I've done.
Yeah.
When this has been happening, a couple times every once in a while. Like I'll put out a review, and I've actually been actively doing this. Like this kind of comes up in this discussion. I used to, if you look at my reviews like 2 months back, I would have some superlatives in the final thoughts section. I'd be like, this is the best blank I've played, or this game, I loved this game. And I've been trying to like actively cut that from my final thoughts.
Right.
And just say straight up, like, man, if you like this, this, and this, you probably like this game.
Yeah.
If you don't like that and that, you might want to avoid this. Like I've been trying to like cut it down to that core.
Cut it down.
And so my favorite thing is like this just happened with what I do with Arnak. It just happened with Arnak. Mm-hmm. I got 2 different people messaging me. One person was like, oh my gosh, that review was great, man. I'm so excited to get my copy now. Mm-hmm. And then like a minute later, somebody else messaged me. They're like, man, I'm so glad I didn't get that one. Thank you so much. And I was like,
same review.
Damn video, dude.
Yeah, man.
That's good. That is where, so I think, I don't know what people, the consumer, right? I think what the consumer, there's a fear. I'm sensing a fear among consumers, and especially the vocal ones. That obviously the most fearful ones are going to be the most vocal ones. That like they're going to get hoodwinked,
Yeah.
and like we're out to kind of like sandbag people, or maybe, and this is I'll give this one up. Maybe there's something unconscious going on. So like there is a such thing as unconscious bias. So like we think we're being objective, but really we're kind of biased because they gave it to us and we like them and blah, blah, blah. So like, as an example, I'm very good friends at this point with Tristan Hall from Hall Nothing Games. So am I giving that a little 0.5 bump because I like the dude? It's like, I get that, but that will not lead me to say a bad game is good.
Yeah, but I also I'm friends with some people. Like we're actually tight. Like I just think their game. If I think it's bad, I actually just won't cover it. Like, or if they're my friend, like I just won't cover it on principle. Like I can't cover Chip Theory games. I can't really cover Arcane Wonders or Greenbrier. Those I stay with them when I go to Indianapolis. Like I can't, like. They make good games, so it doesn't really matter. But
it works out for everybody.
Like I can't just be like, oh, this is crap. Like I gotta look these people in the eye, or I could just tell them like, hey man, your game, I don't want to cover it, whatever. But if somebody asks me about it, I'm gonna tell them what's up. Like that's why I tell people, like even when I do these Kickstarter previews, I don't do reviews in Kickstarter previews, but sometimes my language may sound kind of mucky, right? But if you ask me, I'm gonna tell you. Okay, like
I mean that's happened several times.
And I'm very accessible. I'm very accessible. So if you ask me, I'm going to tell you. And I feel like that's what people don't like. They don't understand. It's like this is a service or whatnot. But I think that's another Kickstarter discussion because some people do reviews for Kickstarters, and those people are starting to get a little bit more, wave and stuff like that. Like Alex gets, a lot of love for that, and honestly, publishers don't want that most of the time. They do it when they're very confident in their game, but most publishers do not want that because it's a prototype, And most people who are doing those reviews are going to be requesting them more so than, hey, I'm sending you my prototype to beat up possibly, hey, I'm going to send you this prototype and cross my fingers. And because I'm going to put it on my Kickstarter page regardless. I'm like, the only person that's ever done that was Jamie Stagmeyer, who did it for Forrest Bauer back in the day. He destroyed the game and he put it on his Kickstarter page. He completely destroyed the game. He destroyed Scythe. Like he just tore it apart. And Forrest is the most like boisterous. Just won't hold back. He put it dead center on the page. I've never seen a publisher ever do that. So, it's just rare. Nobody wants that stuff. So it's like previews are previews for a reason, watch the playthroughs, get informed. Same thing for reviews, get informed. Don't stick with Quinn just because SDSD said so. Don't stick with Tom because Tom said so. Or don't look for consistency. Look for the opinion of that person. You come to their channel, that's what they cover. That's how they cover things. Because it's nothing worse. There's nothing worse to see your review and then somebody go, but Tom said this. That's like disrespectful to you, right? It's like, I did the work. I'm sharing my opinion. I came up with these clear thoughts and I'm sharing them with you. And this is my final opinion. Well, Tom liked it. Tom's 50. I don't care. Like what? I don't know. Like
Tom's not 50.
Tom's
I know. Age.
I know. Like, I'm just saying. I know.
Okay.
I'm just saying. It's like, is he like, I'm just saying like, like somebody who's older and younger, like you don't even identify the same type of fun, like you don't know, you don't know. So
I know for a fact Tom often does not like the same games that I like and vice versa, but that's useful information. Like
me and Tom have fun together.
Sure.
We all like the same games.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no,
I have people who watch my channel and they say, whenever you don't like a Euro, I know I'll like it. And I'm like, hey, however the information is useful to you, don't get cynical. Just, like you all been saying, like educate yourself and research.
That's a good thing.
Right.
That means you are informing them. Like they feel informed because the things you're mentioning, like I even said that to that guy. There was a guy in your post and I said, there are things that he's saying that make you might go like, I actually don't care about that.
Right.
You were saying it was a flaw. I was like, well, Mike is a designer. So he has a different mindset coming in. Sometimes he can't even hold it back.
Yeah.
So, but he's telling you these things. And you're just like, that's not a big deal to me, or that's how it works in this game over here. And I played that game. That's not a big thing. That actually sounds cool.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
so if you're doing your job, if somebody's informing you, you know, like that you make that kind of statement, that means that that's good information, and they respect you. They
So I
respect
mean,
you.
so one thing I will kind of put an asterisk in what you said, like in terms of like the information. We are playing games, so I'm not against when a consumer just relies on a guy. It's like, oh, that person get it, and then I'll get it. Like, because
Yeah.
like board games are one of among jillions of media, books, TV. Like, I can't be doing research on everything. Like, I mean, if I hear if one person refers a book to me, I will just buy it and read it because I trust that person. So like, I got no problem with that. I think the problem that I have is the person who does that and then makes the extra step of saying, well, that person's a show. Like, that's an extra step now. And I'm a little bit like, okay, if you are going to call somebody a shill, then you need to do your homework.
Right.
Like, if you are going to bring the heat, and we as reviewers, we take that same thing on of like, if we're going to bring the heat on a game, like I play in a way, I play my, like, if it's like a 7 game, I'm going to play it a couple times or whatever. But if it's like a 6 or below, I'm going to play it more.
Yeah.
Because I want to make sure.
Right. Yes. Oh my God.
I want to make sure as I can that I state what my disagreement is. And like I played Defenders of the Realm, I tortured myself and played that game again. And because, sorry, Richard Launius or whoever loves that game, I just don't. I don't. But I sat there and I played it and I thought about it, and it's like, so like if we take that on ourselves, and you guys clearly did that for Dune and whatever else there. We can ask for the you guys out there, if you're going to have a negative opinion of us or some of that on there, then you look at their stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that we can at least, and no one's gonna listen.
No,
we're pissing the ocean.
Right. We get all the free stuff. We get all everything.
Yeah, right.
Man, come on, man. Come on, guys.
Yeah, right.
Come on.
We're suing your free stuff. And
Right.
how you know?
Yeah.
I just bought my second, Lambo from my
right.
my mad board game loot.
Right.
Brinks.
But I mean, I think you reacted strong to that, Mike. Like, I mean, this idea that with certain reviewers and the responsible ones, we actually take more time with a game that we don't, or like not a game that we like, but like an element of a game we don't like, to really make sure we say it properly.
I know we might not get to Arnak at this point, but this just happened with Arnak. I posted my playthrough and I'd filmed my review, and somebody saw the playthrough and they were like, hey, you played this rule wrong. And I was like, mother.
Yeah.
So I had to, like, I was like, I felt like this, like my body like was physically reacting. I was like, I'm not posting this review until I played this like 3 more times. So I played it 3 more times with the right thing, and everything in my review was exactly the same. It didn't change a dang thing, but but I wanted to be sure for my own like mental health. You know, like I'm not. I mean, I can imagine there are people out there like who don't mind actually shilling, like in the true definition of that word. I can imagine there are some people out there whose psychology allows them to do that.
Yeah.
But I think the average person who cares about games, who cares about this community, who has friends in this community who watch their stuff, who wants to have a reputation, because if you like start saying every bad game is good, no one's going to watch you in a few months. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
I think the average person is going to have like an active reaction against like lying, and like is going to have like ethical dilemmas and moral dilemmas, and not feel good about it. You don't want to live there. Like, you don't want to be like feeling like bad about your behavior in a creative outlet that you don't have to do. Like, none of us have to do this, right? Generally speaking.
Who wants to warm up the mic and lie?
Right.
Like, I'm gonna warm up this mic and I'm gonna
but you're
tell
getting
you,
free games, Jeremy.
I'm gonna tell you that this game is great.
You know,
I'm gonna tell you that Call to Adventure is the game of the year. You remember that one? You remember when we did that one, buddy?
He does like Call to. I know you did a video for it.
I like that game.
And I think like people need the context. All right, like we said it earlier. Like, you look at, I don't know the real numbers, but my guess of what Rado is making, like looking at his like Patreon and looking at his stuff, I'm pretty sure that Rado is making less that many of us on this call right now, even, or other people with like normal gainful employment make with our regular job. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's cool to make a living with your creative endeavor that is your passion, that is something like board games. But I don't think anybody's making like $200K a year from this.
Yeah.
Like, no, you know what I mean?
Dude, after talking to
it is
Richard,
insulting to think that we're bought and sold so
Right.
easily.
Dude.
Right. Like it's like what? Like some publisher's gonna send me a 50,
yeah,
and I'm gonna like lie
Dude.
on the air for you. Like, give me a break.
you can find out how much Rahdo makes per preview. You can find out how many hits somebody gets on a website. You can look up their Patreon. You can
Yeah,
find
or their
how much money
YouTube
they're
views
making.
and how much
Like,
they're
you can
probably
do
making in
all
ads.
that. The most important part is what are you taking in from what they're saying? Like, I actually don't watch Rahdo's final thoughts. I told him that. Like, he was kind of like, whoa. I'm like, I get a chance to actually talk to you. So I hear what you poo-poo on and what you don't like. But for some reason, after all this time, now people have tuned out the things. They decide what they want to tune in. They're like, he's always so exuberant. He's always so happy. I'm like, he trashes everything with conflict. What are you talking about? And as a matter of fact, he's gotten to the point now where he has other people on his channel that just cover different games than he is. Like, I can't remember what game he was talking about last night, but it was like he had mentioned it and he said, yeah, I played it, didn't like it. I told him I was going to send it to somebody else, send it to the other person on the channel, but because he thought it would fit him. But I'm thinking like, up until then, he had a lot of games where he'd be like, I don't like that one, or I'm not covering that one, or there's something wrong with this one. If you look at his roundup, you'd be like, yeah, this one was like number 25, even though it was like one of the most hyped games because it didn't do this for him. And you know what those things are: not two-player, high conflict. He doesn't like cooperative games, like that kind of stuff. It's like, and then there's sometimes where he does play solo and you're really surprised. It's like he's good at it. Like, he's good at explaining it for a solo player, but generally he doesn't do that. So it's like, he's learned these new tricks over the years, but it's like people just, man, sometimes they attach to him and then sometimes they just crush him. I'm like, you can't win. You can't win.
So then, so I'm going to have Ben Maddox on my show in about a month, and he is very much on the reviewers can't get paid, and reviewers he's very kind of like, the journalist's kind of style of reviewer. Yeah. And so one of his things was, in a recent video, he says that we should cover bad games. Like, we shouldn't be punting games along. Like, if we are, we want to be honest and responsible. And it's like, that is not that how do you build trust? And you might be biasing yourself. Just cover it. Be honest. Honesty is the ultimate virtue. I'm overstating the case, but like, I'm not really remembering what he says, but there's something along those lines. And so, like, all three of us, we punt along bad games. And
well,
so
I don't in the same way. And I think it is good, by the way, like this conversation, I think it's good to know what the policies are for like the people you're watching.
Yes.
Like, to know that Man vs. Meeple will pass along a game to someone who will like it better so you can get the best look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And know
will
that
do it.
Dice
We'll do it.
we literally we have a hub of games.
Right.
They have to send us rule books. They have to tell us what kind of content they want. It's all sent to them a la carte. They actually get to choose what they want. And it doesn't say, hey, do you want free positive reviews or whatever? It costs this amount of money. No, they don't do that. And then we go through it and we look at the system and go, you read the rule book and you just go, well, actually look, and it'll say, no, I don't want that. Actually, that might be for Jeremy. Take a look at it. I'll be like, no, I don't want that either. And then our other Kira, she sends all the rejects. We reject almost all of them, man. Like, it's ridiculous how many reject. I think people don't understand. It's like, I have read the rule book. I've read the BGG page. I may have talked to the designer, and they sent me the rule book after I talked to him, and I ain't like it. So it's like, there's a lot of things. By the time I get in front of the camera, I know that the game, as I always say, every game that I cover is at least I know it's okay.
At least
it's good.
Yeah. And for somebody, at least for somebody.
I can tell it's for somebody, and I feel comfortable sitting in front of the table and showing it to you because I think it's interesting at the least.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah,
suck. Like, they don't just suck. Like, I would not, these games I would definitely like they may not be world beaters, but I try to cover the ones I think are interesting at the least. And then the ones that are great, it's hard not to say it. Like, it's hard not to be like, man, dude, like, this is wow. Like, this is gonna be wow. Like, because I'm serious. Like, it's hard. But like, even when we cover Burn Cycle, like, Burn Cycle has challenges. Like, and I said that. I was like, but that what is that? That grid or whatever? I was like, this could be the most interesting, but it could fall flat.
Yep.
And I had to say it. And I was just like, because it's true. Like, it's the most game that needs the most development. And so, for such a big designer, I think people want to hear that because they can't understand it. And that's fine, you know, but like, you're going to hear that several times. Like I said, you just got to have range, man. You got to have range. You got to have reviewer range, you know, little reviewer range. So
I just like, I mean, in terms of like, do we need to cover every negative thing? I just don't think that's just, we're not journalists, you know, like we're something else. Like our role is to share the joy of what these publishers are making. Like that's kind of how I see my role. I don't see my role as like a journalist. I see my role as like a sharer.
yeah,
You know, these publishers are making really awesome things, and some of them may not be awesome for me, but they may be awesome for you. Like I love when I can put out a review of a game that I don't love, like, you know, but somebody else is like, oh man, thank you for featuring it. It looks beautiful. It looks like it's for me. And that gives me so much joy.
right.
So it's like, I have to be really careful. I'm not going to like say a bad game is good, but if there's games that come along that don't thrill me, I'm punting because I have to keep the joy, or
Like
else this is not going to happen.
You know what? I was just thinking of this. You remember Renegade?
Ricky Royale's game. Yeah. It's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Right over here.
There's a lot of people who think the game is garbage.
Right.
I think the game is great. I know the rule book.
I'm in the meta
right.
camp.
So I think the game is great. I think it's clunky and it's great.
Right.
And I have to defend that, and I have to explain that to you. I have to explain to you how the art stinks. I have to explain to you how it looks abstract as all heck, because it is. But I also have to tell you how awesome the AI
terrible
is.
ending.
Like, I have to explain these things, and it's difficult. So if you really rock with me, let's go on that journey and see how difficult I can weave my way to make you understand that this is one of my favorite games, but it's also a flawed game. And that's,
to me, it's like,
that's something I think people don't remember. You know, it's like, even Call to Adventure, which we poo-pooed on, there are good things in Call to Adventure. Like the game is just fun simply on the fact that you are telling your own story. That is cool. And that may be enough for anybody. That may be enough for anybody. Like, that's not to be questioned. That is not to be questioned. That part is so awesome. It's so fun. But there are a lot of things I don't like about that game. But I mean, I could actually spend 10 minutes talking about the stuff that I love, though, just because the experience, right?
Honestly,
but then
like when you
those things,
describe
I just don't like them at the core. You
when
know,
you describe a game, you like the consensual issues. Like, you know, these issues are there. This is the good stuff. I think that if you listen to enough reviewers who are, you know, somewhat like-minded, consensus will emerge, and then the review will get to their thoughts. Like, okay, I like this, I don't like this, and the reviewer will be like, I don't like this, but I like this. But they can agree on the same stuff. So it's like we are inviting consumers to go along with it. I love how you said that we're all on this journey. So it's like we made the journey. You know, we're all us discovering this and sharing it with you. Now, well, let's meet in the middle, and you figure out if this thing that I've presented to you that smart people can come to consensus about, is this for you or is it not for you?
Yeah.
As opposed to saying, okay, what's the rating? Is it good or bad? You know, that's where. You know, that's the get a
I'm
little
just
bit
thinking
of trouble
these
there.
games, like, they're difficult. Like, there's just games that are even difficult to rate, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, it's hard. That's another thing. You are trying so hard and you're thinking about it so much on how to be clean and concise and not overly wordy, like talking on top of yourself, like being contradictory, like, because some people will pick you apart for not being clear and concise. They sense they start to, you know, the black and white thing, right? They start to sense why is he like treading lightly?
They want the black and white. It's like, ooh,
right, like,
he's
and I'm thinking to myself,
black,
like, I'm actually just trying to, like, I'm trying to not bottom line this. I'm also trying to, like, express my thought as cleanly as possible. This is the third time I've recorded this one. You know, like, you know, like, this may be the 8th time I recorded this one because I'm tired. I've been up late, and I probably should have just not done this preview tonight. You know, and that's the thing. It's like, we are thinking these things out, and then you finally look at it, you're just like, oh, that's just going to be good enough at this point. You're like, at this point, you're like, man. I know I said it right like three shots ago. I have to let this go, because that's the thing. Moving. You are saying how you feel, and people have to take it for that, you know? Unless you're inconsistent, You have to take it for that. I even
Well, I
say,
mean, but you can even be inconsistent. Like
yeah,
I
you
really think
can.
you got to give grace to reviewers. Like today I might love a game with a lot of dice.
Hmm.
Right,
Tomorrow, a game
right.
with
Oh
a lot
yeah.
of dice might rub me wrong.
Yeah,
Doesn't mean that I'm
Hmm.
like lying. Just
yeah,
means that one
Yeah,
didn't work for me.
I have done massive swings on games. So like Black Orchestra, I did a massive swing on. I love that game now.
yeah.
You know,
Well, friggin' Too Many Bones. I poo pooed
Right.
all over that game, and now it's like one of my top games.
Yeah. Yeah. I refuse to think anything's wrong with Cthulhu Death May Die. I refuse. I
that's a
absolutely
very
refuse.
good game. Very good game.
It
It's
is a
just
great game.
I don't even want to listen
Mhm.
to you. I'm like, I don't care.
Well, no,
I don't
it's a
care.
beautiful
I
game.
don't care that you could chuck 9 dice, throw madness on all of them. Because it's awesome when it happens. You're like, how did that happen?
Well, and like you said, Jeremy, like we are people, and it's complicated because I think
Yeah, it's complicated.
I think
I was-
Cthulhu Death May Die is like a genius design,
It's just
and
a
I got
genius
rid of that
design.
thing like a month later. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
and that's fine.
Right. And there's people who just like, dude, you're stupid. I can't stand it. I'm like, I don't like Cthulhu theme. I don't like having dice determine everything. But damn, that game is fun.
That game is fun.
Like, it's flat out fun. Like, that game is flat out fun. And you can't find it anywhere for a reason. So can't find it.
I think we've said what we did say. Mike,
Yeah.
are you? Yeah, I think we're pretty good. I mean, honestly, like, I mean, maybe we've gotten a little bit, especially me. I apologize if I feel like a little agitated. I don't, and I think Jeremy's the same way. Definitely the same way. Like, I mean, we are people that want to be positive. We're people that we do this to spread joy, and we are joyful people in general. And so when that negative element that judgment comes, that like, oh, you only say positive things, you must be shilling, or why are you defending this or something like that? It's like, we're defending this because this is about love and joy. Like it really is. Like this sounds Pollyanna, it sounds cheesy as heck, but that's what this is games, people.
Mm-hmm.
And we will not lie. We are not going to smooth over negative stuff just to kind of like get our free stuff, make relationships, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it.
By the way, that's another thing. We can move on. Like if people are like, well, they won't get any games anymore. I'm like, I buy games too, bro. I'm good. Like,
yeah, we're going to keep on doing this.
If I don't like 3 Lucky Duck games in a row, they're probably not going to send me their games because I don't like their games.
Right.
Well, if you get the first one and you don't like it, they won't see another one. I'm like, well, if I like the next one, I'll buy it. Right. I don't like that's.
And then in relationship, like this stuff is ongoing.
Right.
You know, this stuff is ongoing. So like, I mean, I just want to like say to people, like, I mean, I know you want to know. I know you want to know if you can trust us, and we can't give you easy answers. We can't just say, oh, trust everything we say. Right. Listen to us, build relationships with us, and trust that all three of us, we're in this for the joy, and we're in this for the happiness, and just that negativity. Like, you know, skepticism is healthy to be skeptical, but watch that line. Watch that line towards cynicism. That's the only thing I really want to say.
I would say this. You have to say this. We are here to inform you. Like, and sometimes that won't be, sometimes it would be great. Most times it'll be good, okay. And when it's not good, we're going to do just as good a job as when it's great, right? But we're going to make valid points no matter what. And that's what I think what everybody's hoping to do. And if you follow a young reviewer channel, you got to let them find their voice. They're going to tread on their words. They're not going to say things clearly. They might even get so worried about it, they'll re-record the review and take the other one down. They're growing. They're afraid. They're finding new cameras. They just bought a new light. They're trying new segments. You know, like you got to decide if you want to go on that journey with them. And please do, you know, sub and watch. Just sub and let it go for a while and see if they grow in 6 months, you know, like, you know, just let these people be a part of this. For us, we know how to do it. You know, we know how to do it, and we're still concerned.
Right, exactly.
We're still growing. Yeah, we're still growing and learning.
Yeah, we're still growing, and we're still concerned. You know, so it's like for these younger, you know, pups in this industry, they're trying to work their way up. They are under a lot of pressure. I could see how they would fall victim to some of the things you guys are, you know, looking for. I can see that because I did some of that stuff where I was just like, oh, I didn't mean to do that. Well, I'm taking that down. Like, you know, like, you know, like, I mean, it's stupid, you know, like you make a mistake, you know, like, you know, you don't mean to. That's the thing. You don't mean to. They don't want to be that person. Oh my God. You know, they'll cancel their Twitter account and get off Facebook. You don't want that. That hurts, you know? So yeah, I don't, I just want you to know that your words have weight too, man. Roll with these people. Let them grow. Let them make mistakes too. Let them make mistakes.
Mike, as the designated most negative reviewer here, because you're a designer, right? Like you have that critical eye. Like that.
By
That is just
design,
that is the bottom line. Like you are selling games to publishers, and you cannot sell crap to them. So you have to train yourself to have that thing. So like if you out there are vibe with Mike's perspective a little bit more, then that's awesome. But just because you vibe with that critical perspective doesn't make the other people more shilly. It really doesn't.
Right, and my taste might not align with yours at all.
Yeah.
The things I hate, you might love. So
Yeah.
let it be information. It doesn't have to be a thing to get angry about. It doesn't have to be a soapbox. It's just information. Make of it what you will, and don't watch if you don't like it. You know what I mean?
Don't watch if you don't like it. Yeah.
So at this point, I think we're good. We'll tune in sometime else. We will cover Lost Ruins of Arnak. Poor Lost Ruins.
I got a video on One Stop Co-op Shop. You can go watch it.
So we
Jeremy's
can
does some
end
stuff
on let's
too.
end on some promo. So you have that game and Dune and many other games in the One Stop Co-op Shop. So give us some promo about what the channel is doing now and some of the projects.
Yeah, well, for me, January is probably for you too, Jeremy. Or that's right, you said you don't do Kickstarter stuff. Yeah, January is Kickstarter month for me.
Mm-hmm.
I've got 5 or 6 that I've agreed to cover, and I only agree to cover them after I've read the rule book. I'm very similar to Jeremy, so I know with pretty good certainty because I write rule books that I'm going to like these. So Primal is a big one that should be launching in January. Yep. That looks hot fire. I know we've talked this whole time about hot takes and how you should go off with initial impression.
Let's get that out of the game. Let's get that out of the way.
Yeah. I've not played the game, but hot fire, Primal, good Lord.
Good Lord.
Yeah, and I got a few other cool ones coming. So, yeah, a lot of Kickstarters for January. At least
there's a lot of big ones coming in January.
So then we have the YouTube, we have the podcast, we have Twitch. Twitch is launching up. Steve and Barrett and Peter are doing a great job with our One Stop Co-op Shop Twitch. I'm still doing videos for them and for the Dice Tower. So, but my heart belongs to OSCS because they are my family. Speaking of fam, Jeremy, you my family as well. We're gonna keep track with you. So what do you got coming up? You got Man vs. Meeple, you got Board Game Spotlight live. Tell the peoples.
Yeah. So you can just kind of find me a little bit of everywhere because I do visit a lot of podcasts and I do visit a lot of live shows and different people's content and play rounds and things like that. I like to be a community person above all. But I do the Kickstarter previews for Man vs. Meeple. I'm going to be piping that down for 2021 and doing more just video reviews. Right. I'll still have Solo Sundays, which is on Facebook, but I'm probably going to be moving that over to the YouTube page just so there's more presence on the page. I just want to reach as many people as possible, especially for publisher side and myself, because I like to interact with the chat. Sometimes those are good and bad, but I'm really, really trying to get in touch with more people moving forward and getting more excited about games and having more of these critical conversations because I'm love to talk, but I also like to have, feedback. Feedback, good, bad, and ugly. We can have these conversations. I'm good at having these conversations. And you'll get, my truth, which is a little bit of a lower presence on the channel unless I'm visiting things. So I want to kind of put more of my imprint on the channel. I've been kind of holding back for a long time. I think it's time to kind of let the gloves off a little bit.
Yeah, let the Care Bear stare flow.
Yeah. Then I'll be the guy who bashes everything, right? Yeah.
This video down here, subscribe to the channel, Self Stories. Also the One Stop Co-op Shop. Keep track of me on Facebook and BGG user Pope Sixtus. I mean, we are all very available. If you want it, we all want to build a relationship with you. That's number one thing for all of us. So this is Jason reminding you, if you can change your mind, you can change the world. So until next time, later everybody.
Thanks for joining us again for the One Stop Co-op Shop podcast. Check out our YouTube channel at One Stop Co-op Shop. Also, join us for games and discussion on our Discord channel. You can support us on Patreon at patreon.com/onestop or leave us a review on iTunes. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week for another Top 5 list.